Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we really get into it, taking all the research, the notes, everything we can find, and boiling it down for you, give you those essential, sometimes really surprising insights.
Yeah, the stuff that matters.
Exactly. And today, we're profiling someone whose face you definitely know, an entertainer whose career hasn't just, lasted, but has really evolved strategically across 5 decades.
Yeah.
Think about that. 5 decades of huge shifts in show business. We're talking about Kevin Nealon.
Right. And this is, it's really a masterclass in professional adaptability, isn't it? Because most people, they probably pin Nealon to maybe one thing.
SNL, usually.
SNL, absolutely. That incredible run from 86 to 95. Or maybe Doug Wilson on Weeds, that long run there.
Sure, another big one.
But the story we're tracing today, it's just so much richer, so much more complex. This is someone who went pretty seamlessly, actually, from delivering those satirical subliminal messages on network TV.
Mr. Subliminal. Classic.
To becoming a genuinely respected supporting actor, getting Screen Actors Guild nominations, and then ultimately innovating his own media platform with self-produced digital stuff. It's quite the arc.
That transition you mentioned from the absolute biggest stage in comedy, Saturday Night Live, to literally filming himself hiking with celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
That's the core of this deep dive, isn't it?
It really is.
We're trying to get at the how and the why. How did he manage that longevity? Why did he make those specific choices?
Mm-hmm.
So just to anchor the basics quickly, Kevin Nealon, born November 18th, 1953, makes him, 71 as of 2025.
That's right.
And yeah, those foundational roles, we know them, Happy Gilmore, Weeds, SNL.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, we're really dedicated here to showing you the full picture, the strategic blueprint almost of his whole career.
Exactly.
Exploring everything from his early life, that surprising college degree we'll get into, to his activism, which is pretty significant, and his really kind of cutting-edge approach to making media today.
Exactly. Our mission really is to push past just the famous characters and roles and analyze the strategy underneath it all. He's just a perfect case study, I think, in how you stay relevant when the industry keeps changing the rules on you.
Right.
Whether that's, acting alongside Adam Sandler in those big comedies, or starring in a serious cable drama, or just, like you said, grabbing a selfie stick and creating your own thing, your own IP.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start right at the beginning, because the groundwork for Nealon's career, it kind of hints at a level of maybe strategic thinking you wouldn't normally associate with a young stand-up comedian just starting out.
Right. It wasn't just about being funny.
He was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but the family didn't stick around there long at all. They moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, just months after he was born.
And that geographical sort of restlessness, that's maybe the first clue about adaptability, right?
Right.
His dad, Emmett F. Nealon, was an executive at an aircraft company.
Ah, okay. That often means moving around.
Exactly, often tied to relocation. But the really significant move, the one that probably shaped him a lot, came when Kevin was just 6 years old. The whole family moved to Heidelberg, West Germany.
Wow, Germany.
For how long?
4 full years. Lived there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So think about that. A really foundational part of his childhood spent in a totally different culture, different language.
Yeah, that early immersion, being dropped into a foreign setting like that, you've got to learn fast, right? Learn the nuances, how things work. It almost certainly would sharpen the kind of observational skills you need for satire later on.
Absolutely. You become hyper aware of what's considered normal back home by seeing what's completely different somewhere else.
Right. Makes sense. He also has Irish roots, Irish descent, raised Catholic, pretty standard stuff there maybe. But the truly surprising piece of the puzzle, especially given where he ended up, is his education.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. It wasn't drama school, not acting classes.
Yeah. No. It was much more structured. Commerce, basically. After he graduated high school, St. Joseph High in Trumbull, Connecticut, back in '71, he went to Sacred Heart University and earned a bachelor's degree in marketing.
Marketing? Seriously? A comedian with a marketing degree?
Seriously. It sounds almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? For someone who became known for counterculture comedy on SNL?
Yeah, totally.
Yet I'd argue it's maybe the single most important piece of context. If you want to understand why he's had such an enduring career, why he's managed to stay relevant for so long.
Okay, I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
If we're tracking this theme of longevity, of strategic control over his career, That marketing degree is kind of the Rosetta Stone, isn't it?
I think so. Because comedy, at the end of the day, it is a business. It's about branding yourself, positioning yourself in the market.
Right.
He wasn't just learning joke structure. He was literally studying audience segmentation, product promotion, how to build a durable, appealing personal brand. That's marketing 101.
And you can see how that strategic mindset probably informed his choices, even when he was still, finding his voice creatively. He played guitar in bands in high school. That's pretty typical.
Classic outlet, yeah.
And he even played quarterback on the club football team at Fairfield University, taking night courses there, too. So he had these other interests. But it feels like that analytical marketing side was maybe always there, kind of guiding things. And he understood, maybe early on, that just having talent isn't enough.
Exactly. Talent's crucial, obviously, but you need a pathway, a strategy to actually monetize it, to build something lasting out of it.
Which leads him, inevitably, to the stand-up grind, that infamous path. He heads west, right? First San Diego in 77.
Yeah, San Diego first, then pretty quickly realized he needed to be in the center of it also. Los Angeles, to get into that core comedy scene.
And the LA scene back then, late 70s, early 80s,
Yeah.
it was intense.
Oh, absolutely ferocious. And his university basically was the Improv Comedy Club. But crucially, he didn't start out performing there every night. He worked there, tended bar just to make a living.
Ah, the classic story. Working behind the bar, soaking it all in.
Exactly. And that gave him, what, about 6 years of just intense, constant, unvarnished exposure to the craft. He wasn't just working on his own 5-minute set. He was watching everyone, absorbing the timing, the audience reactions, the business side of it, seeing how the established comedians operated.
6 years. That's a serious apprenticeship. A baptism by fire, really. And clearly necessary before he finally got that call. The one every comedian dreamed of back then.
The Tonight Show.
Yep. His network debut on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. 1984.
That was it. Getting on the Carson couch, that was the ultimate validation. It meant you'd arrived, you were ready for the big leagues. And it basically catapulted him overnight almost, from the guy tending bar to being a regular guest, not just on Carson, but on Letterman too, late night with David Letterman.
Huge. His visibility just exploded after that first Carson spot. And there's a great little anecdote from around that time, isn't there? It kind of perfectly shows that tight-knit, almost pre-fame comedy community he was part of.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. 1985, he's on stage, actually, with a young Jan Hooks.
Who he later worked with on SNL, of course.
And dated, right?
Dated, yeah. They were celebrating their friend, another comedian named Tim Halloran.
What happened with Halloran?
He just won a ton of money on a game show, Sale of the Century. Like, initially $90,000, but it ended up being over $166,000, a huge amount back then.
Wow. So Nealon and Hooks are up there celebrating this buddy's game show win.
Exactly. It's just this lovely little moment, shared struggle, celebrating a big win that wasn't even really about comedy success, but it showed their solidarity. They were all on the cusp.
And it's important because it links him directly to the people who were about to define 80s comedy. It's laying the groundwork, setting the stage for his own entry into, well, the biggest sketch show on TV.
Big time. Saturday Night Live. He gets there in 1986. Then becomes a full-time performer pretty quickly in the 87-88 season. But his arrival, it wasn't just random luck, right? He kind of owed a favor, or at least a big thank you, to a friend.
He certainly did. His friend Dana Carvey had just been recruited in 86.
Ah, Carvey. Makes sense.
And Carvey recommended Nealon. That recommendation was what opened the door for him.
And once he was in, he stayed. What's often overlooked, I think, is just how much stability he brought to that show. SNL is famously a revolving door, high turnover.
Notoriously so.
But when Nealon left in 1995, he'd been there 9 seasons. 9. And at that point, he actually held the record for the longest tenured cast member.
That's right. It's since been surpassed, obviously, by Kenan Thompson and others, but at the time, 9 seasons was monumental. A real testament to how indispensable he became, how valued he was by Lorne Michaels and the team.
So if you really look at what he contributed to SNL, he wasn't just like one type of performer. He was kind of a structural pillar for the show's satire, wasn't he?
That's a great way to put it. His comedy was incredibly diverse. It covered so much ground: political satire, news satire, straight-up observational stuff about pop culture, even domestic things like marriage.
He had range.
He really did. He mastered both ends of the spectrum, you could say. On one end, you've got that high-energy, physical comedy, the pure, quotable absurdity of France.
You want to pump? clap you up.
Exactly. One half of Hans and Franz with Dana Carvey. Just pure spectacle comedy, instantly recognizable.
Yeah. But then on the completely other end, you have the linguistic genius, the high concept brilliance of Mr. Subliminal.
Mr. Subliminal, just a
Yeah.
brilliant piece of structural satire. He'd be standing there talking normally about something completely mundane while simultaneously delivering these crude, unfiltered, subconscious thoughts under his breath.
Whispering total nonsense.
Right, those subliminal messages. It was such a smart commentary on, the hidden anxieties, the inappropriate things we actually think when we're listening to formal news or commentary.
And he even integrated it into Weekend Update later, right? The subliminal editorial.
He did, which just shows how much trust Lorne Michaels had in him and in that bit, putting it right into the core news segment of the show. That's huge.
Okay, so you've got the physical, Hans and Franz,
Yeah.
and the linguistic, Mr. Subliminal. What else?
Well, then there's Frank Gannon, PIPI. Remember him, the politically incorrect private investigator?
Vaguely, yeah. PIPI.
That character was such a sharp, timely response to the whole cultural conversation around political correctness that was really picking up steam in the early 90s.
Ah, yeah.
By using that familiar detective show trope, Nealon could land some really cutting social commentary, but he was doing it, seemingly just by playing this character who was completely bewildered by the new social rules.
Clever. And he did other characters, too. Parodies, Bob Waltman.
Bob Waltman, his male Barbara Walters parody, yeah.
Yeah.
And he did a great Brent Musburger impression, too, the sportscaster. Being able to nail both original characters and specific parodies made him incredibly versatile for the show.
Definitely. And then there's Weekend Update itself, anchoring that desk for 4 years, 91 to 94, taking over from Dennis Miller. That was a really critical time for SNL.
Huge crusher. That segment is, like you said earlier, the satirical heartbeat of the show. Keeping its quality high, especially during a period when the cast was in transition, that's a major accomplishment.
It's not just about reading jokes off a teleprompter.
Not at all. It required serious performance chops, obviously, but also real writing discipline. And this period really highlights his contribution as a writer, not just a performer.
Right, because the cast members often wrote or co-wrote their own material.
Exactly. And his work, especially during that update tenure and with characters like Mr. Subliminal, earned him recognition. He got a Primetime Emmy Award nomination back in 1987.
For writing.
For outstanding writing in a variety or a music program, yeah. Shared with the whole writing cast, but it confirms he wasn't just delivering lines. He was deeply involved in shaping the show's satirical voice. He was one of those rare cast members whose comedy was so conceptually strong, like Mr. Subliminal, that you could strip it down to just the words, the structure, and it still landed perfectly.
Okay, so that foundation is really clear now. Strategic thinking from the start. That intense stand-up discipline, and then this incredibly solid 9-year SNL run, where he proved himself as both a super versatile performer and a really strong satirical writer. That kind of credibility. That's what you need for the next big step, right? The post-SNL pivot, the diversification.
Yeah, because leaving a show like SNL after almost a decade, that can be career death if you don't have a plan B, right?
Totally. So many former cast members kind of fade away.
But Nealon's plan seems pretty clear in retrospect. It was like he decided, okay, I'm going to become the most reliable, most recognizable supporting guy in two very different comedy worlds.
Which were?
On one side, the big, broad, mainstream film comedy world, and on the other, the more sophisticated, maybe more nuanced world of premium cable TV. Two totally different ecosystems.
Okay, let's start with the film world then. Specifically, that huge connection he has with Adam Sandler, the Happy Madison connection.
Yes, critical. And Nealon isn't just like a random cameo in Sandler's movies. He feels like an essential part of that whole Adam Sandler cinematic universe,
He really does. It must stem from their time together on SNL. They overlapped for a few years.
Definitely built a rapport there. And it turned into this incredibly important, commercially successful partnership for Nealon post-SNL. His first really major film role that cemented that connection was playing Gary Potter in Happy Gilmore.
Oh yeah, the golf pro. 1996.
That character was just the perfect foil for Sandler's character, right? Kind of smarmy, a bit oblivious, the straight-laced guy who's secretly ridiculous, set against Sandler's manic energy.
It worked perfectly. And the fact that nearly 30 years later, there's serious talk, even confirmation, that he's coming back as Gary Potter for Happy Gilmore 2 in 2025.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it,
No.
about how well that character landed, how enduring that specific comedic chemistry is.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just Happy Gilmore. He was all over those Happy Madison films.
Oh, yeah, deep involvement. He was Mr. Sims in The Wedding Singer in '98. Memorable part.
You hit kids.
Chuckles, right. He was Stanley the Gatekeeper in Little Nicky in 2000, which is kind of a darker fantasy thing. Mr. Cheezel in Grandma's Boy in 2006.
Yes. Richard Cheese.
Yeah, and you look across the board, you don't mess with the Zohan Father of the Year, even cameos like a Amidon, and just go with it. Nealon consistently plays that role. The affable, maybe slightly awkward, maybe slightly out of touch professional guy.
The straight man base.
The stable base, yeah. The guy Sandler's chaos can bounce off of. It's a crucial role in those movies.
And beyond just Sandler's company, he was getting cast consistently in other big studio comedies, too.
Yeah.
Anger Management, Daddy Daycare, Get Smart.
Right. He just became Hollywood's go-to guy for reliable comedic support. You needed that character. You called Kevin Nealon.
Okay, so that's the film side. But you mentioned a pivot towards more serious cable work.
Yeah.
That feels like a different beast entirely.
It is. And it required a completely different comedic muscle, much more subtle. And what's interesting is this pivot started surprisingly early, showing he was willing to tackle complexity. And a lot of that seems connected to his relationship with Gary Shandling.
Ah, The Larry Sanders Show. That makes sense. Playing himself on a show about show business. That's a pretty sophisticated leap from SNL sketches.
It really is. A meta sitcom. He popped up as himself in 3 episodes between '93 and '96, and the whole vibe of Larry Sanders, it demanded restraint, perfect observational timing, and this ability to play a believable version of a celebrity navigating the weirdness of the industry.
I remember the episode The New Writer. His presence just kind of subtly freaks out Hank, Jeffrey Tambor's character.
Exactly. That showed he could handle that nuanced, self-aware kind of comedy. It went way beyond the broad strokes he often did on SNL.
But the role that really defined that mid-career shift into prestige cable, into dark comedy, that has to be Doug Wilson on Weeds.
Oh, absolutely. Doug Wilson. That was the game changer. 102 episodes, running from 2005 to 2012. It transitioned him fully into that world.
He was brilliant in that. Such a flawed, funny character.
A masterpiece of cynical, slow burn comedy. He starts out as this goofy local councilman, but he evolves into this deeply flawed, slightly unhinged accountant, best friend, co-conspirator to Mary Louise Parker's character, Nancy Botwin.
And in a show that got progressively darker, exploring some really heavy themes, Doug Wilson was often the necessary comic relief, wasn't he?
Absolutely essential. He provided these moments of levity, often absurdity, in a series that was really about moral decay and crime and high stakes.
So how did his style, the style honed on SNL absurdity, work so well in that much more sophisticated, often kind of disturbing world of Weeds?
I think it was his commitment, his ability to commit completely to the ridiculousness of his character's self-deception. Doug Wilson never felt like he was winching at the audience. You know?
He was
He just lived in this state of constant, desperate, often pathetic delusion, and Nealon played it with absolute sincerity. And that consistency, that commitment to a darker, more contained character, that's what got him serious acting props.
The SAG nominations.
Exactly. 2 Screen Actors Guild Award nominations for outstanding performance by an ensemble in a comedy series in 2007 and 2009. And those are awards for acting excellence shared with that incredible cast, not just for being funny. It really cemented the idea that he could play depth, play nuance.
And his range didn't stop there.
Yeah.
You mentioned he even did a dramatic turn on Monk.
Yeah, briefly, early on, back in 2002, first season of Monk. He played a patient in a mental institution in 1 episode. Just a surprising choice for a guy known mostly for comedy at that point.
Shows a willingness to stretch, maybe?
I think so, a hunger for different kinds of experience. And then later on, he circled back to traditional network TV. He was a series regular on Man with a Plan, the Matt LeBlanc sitcom.
Right, from 2016 to 2020, he played Don Burns.
For 68 episodes. So he showed he could slot right back into that multicam sitcom format too, which just proves his adaptability across pretty much every major TV genre you can think of. Sketch, prestige cable, single cam film stuff, and traditional network sitcoms.
Incredible range. And we should probably quickly mention his voice work too, right? That added another layer.
Definitely. His voice is so recognizable, very affable. It was perfect for the title character in that animated series, Glenn Martin,
Yeah,
TDS.
I remember that show. Ran for a couple of seasons.
39 episodes, yeah, 2009 to 2011. And he did other voice stuff, too. Popped up in Adam Sandler's animated movie, 8 Crazy Nights. Did voices for Crank Yankers, even Family Guy. His voice just became another reliable, versatile tool in his career toolkit.
Okay, so this next section, this is where we really see that strategic thinker, the guy with the marketing degree, fully emerge, right?
Absolutely. This is where he stops just, waiting for the phone to ring with the next acting gig and starts actively creating his own stuff, his own intellectual property, hosting, writing, and then that really interesting digital innovation.
It feels like the triumph of that marketing background put into practice.
Yeah.
He understood that visibility is key,
Yeah.
and you have to chase the audience wherever they happen to be.
Whether that's on basic cable or the Game Show Network or eventually YouTube. And his hosting resume, it's genuinely kind of bizarre in how eclectic it is.
It really is a masterclass in niche chasing. Back in 1994, pretty early post-SNL, he's hosting Amazing America, a 13-part series on the Discovery Channel. Travel, nature, seems pretty standard celebrity fare.
Right, relatively wholesome. But then, fast forward to 2002, he hosts a show called The Conspiracy Zone on the new TNN, what later became Spike TV.
The Conspiracy Zone, seriously.
Seriously, ran for 26 episodes, plus a pilot they never aired. Think about that leap, from observing nature to exploring, deep-seated paranoia, government cover-ups, UFOs, all that stuff.
Wow, that's unexpected.
But it shows a really savvy read on the audience, right? Understanding that burgeoning appetite for specialized kind of fringe targeted cable content, he saw where eyeballs were going.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, another hard pivot, poker.
Yep. In 2004, he hosts the very first season of Poker Royale on the Game Show Network.
The guy from Happy Gilmore and Mr. Subliminal hosting high-stakes Texas Hold'em.
You wouldn't immediately connect those dots, would you? But he just embraced it, became the face of it for that first season.
He really was a chameleon of the medium, wasn't he? Just
Yeah.
showing up and demonstrating competence in all these different formats.
And for years, through the 2000s, he was also that steady, familiar face hosting TBS's annual World's Funniest Commercial Specials. Just solid, reliable hosting.
And let's not forget the actual commercials he starred in. Captain Telstar.
Captain Telstar for Charter Spectrum, starting around 2015. Yeah, so he even successfully crossed over into being the face of an advertising campaign, covering all the bases.
Okay, so hosting was one avenue. But his strategic output also included writing, right? Not just scripts for SNL, but actual books.
Yeah, leveraging his personal life, his own experiences, and turning that into content, into product. Smart.
He's published 2 books, is that right?
2 books, yeah. The first one came out in 2008. It was called Yes, You're Pregnant, But What About Me?
Chuckles, great title.
Isn't it? And it was basically a humorous look at his experience while his wife, Susan Yeagley, was pregnant with their son, taking that universal domestic experience and filtering it through his specific, slightly bewildered comedic voice. It's smart branding.
Taking the personal and making it relatable and funny.
Exactly. And then more recently, just in 2022, he published a memoir called I Exaggerate My Brushes with Fame. So again, leveraging his unique position, his experiences in the industry, these books, they're invaluable brand extensions. They let him control his own narrative outside of the projects other people create.
And he even got academic recognition for all this.
He did, which further kind of validates this idea of him being more than just a funny guy. In 2022, his alma mater, Sacred Heart University, where he got that marketing degree, awarded him an honorary doctorate of humane letters.
Wow, Dr. Nealon.
It's Dr. Nealon indeed. And they invited him back to be the convocation speaker. That's a pretty powerful signal from the institution acknowledging the intellectual weight or impact of his long career.
Okay, but the real genius move, the thing that feels like the ultimate evolution of Kevin Nealon, the marketer and the comedian,
Yeah.
it has to be his digital venture, the web series, Hiking with Kevin.
Yes. This is it. This is where the marketing degree meets the selfie stick and creates something completely new and relevant for the modern era.
The concept is just so simple, launched it back in 2017. He just hikes a trail with a different celebrity guest each episode, and they talk while they walk.
Radically simple. And the origin story behind it is brilliant, too, because it came from a place of, genuine vulnerability, not slick planning.
Oh, yeah. What's the story?
He said the idea came to him when he was hiking with the actor Matthew Modine, and they were both genuinely getting out of breath, struggling up a hill.
Bless. Okay.
And Nealon thought, this is actually funny. recording us struggling, being exhausted, barely able to talk. He realized that vulnerability, that lack of polish, was the actual comedic hook.
That's fantastic,
Mhm.
because it completely flips the script on the traditional polished talk show format.
Totally. The vulnerability is the absolute key to its success. It strips away all that veneer. The guests are often physically uncomfortable. They're maybe less guarded. They seem more authentic. And authenticity is exactly what modern digital audiences crave, much more than slick production values sometimes.
And the production itself is part of the genius, isn't it? By 2022, the show had, over 100 episodes, 4 seasons in, and Nealon basically is the entire production crew.
It's incredible when you think about the resources involved, or rather the lack thereof. He produces it, he edits it himself. He uses basically just a selfie stick with a camera and sometimes a drone for those scenic shots.
So he completely bypasses the entire traditional system. The networks, the producers, the expensive camera crews, the studios.
All of it. He owns the content outright. He controls the schedule, dictates the flow, decides who the guests are. This kind of high-tech amateurism, it feels like the ultimate strategic fulfillment of his entire career arc. He basically decided, I don't need anyone's permission to create something, and he built it around something he genuinely loves doing, hiking.
And the market, the traditional media world, eventually came knocking, right? Validating the whole DIY approach.
They sure did. Just in January 2025, Fox News Media announced a major deal. They're going to stream episodes of Hiking with Kevin on their platform, Fox Nation.
Wow, that's huge. Taking this self-produced web series onto a major streaming service.
That seals it, doesn't it? It proves that an independent, strategically built, authentic digital platform can become a genuinely valuable asset, something the traditional media ecosystem wants to acquire or partner with. It's the ultimate payoff for his adaptability, his willingness to innovate.
So as we kind of shift focus a bit to the personal side of things, we see how some of Nealon's really deeply held personal values, specifically his commitment to animal rights, how that intersected with his public life, and sometimes in ways that led to some pretty serious intrusions.
Yeah, his dedication to his values, it's not just talk, it's long-standing, it's public. He's been a vegetarian since 1989.
Wow, since '89, that's over 3 decades.
Yeah, serious commitment. And he's consistently used his celebrity, his platform, to actively support the animal rights movement. He's lent his name and time to a whole bunch of organizations: PETA, the Amanda Foundation, Farm Sanctuary, Washington Wildlife Alliance, the Ark Trust Genesis Awards, Meat Out. The list goes on.
And this activism, well, obviously commendable, it kind of put him right in the middle of some pretty notorious Hollywood scandals, didn't it? We should probably talk about that wiretapping incident that came out around 2006.
We have to. It's a really shocking story, actually, because it just shows the length some people would go to, the kind of organized criminal activity that was targeting celebrities, even seemingly nice, uncontroversial comedians like Nealon.
What exactly happened?
Well, Nealon himself wrote about it. He contributed this really powerful opinion piece to the New York Times in February 2006, and he detailed how he discovered that his own phone had been illegally wiretapped.
His phone was tapped.
And his police records had been illegally searched. And it all traced back to that infamous Hollywood private investigator, Anthony Pellicano.
Ah, Pellicano, the PI to the stars who ended up in prison.
Exactly. Pellicano was later convicted of a whole slew of crimes: illegal wiretapping, racketeering, conspiracy. The fact that someone like Kevin Nealon was on his target list just underscores how widespread Pellicano's illegal surveillance operation really was in Hollywood at that time.
Just trying to dig up dirt, presumably.
Presumably. Or maybe working for someone who had a dispute with Nealon. It's often murky with Pellicano's cases. But it wasn't just Pellicano.
Oh, there was more.
Apparently so. In a separate legal case, also around 2006, information surfaced suggesting that investigators working for, get this, the Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey Circus?
The circus?
The circus may have also monitored Nealon and potentially even tried to wiretap him as well.
Why on earth would the circus be targeting Kevin Nealon?
Well, the motivation in that instance seems directly tied to his activism. Specifically his very public work with PETA, which often targeted circuses for their treatment of animals.
Wow. So his activism was seen as enough of a threat by a major corporation like Ringling Bros that they allegedly resorted to surveillance.
That's what the report suggested. It paints a really concerning picture, doesn't it? Here's this public figure being subjected to illegal surveillance, maybe not just for standard Hollywood gossip, but specifically because of his moral and political stances on animal rights.
That level of scrutiny, that kind of intrusion, it feels like really important context maybe for some of his later career choices, like wanting more control with hiking with Kevin.
It could certainly factor in. Knowing you've been targeted like that might make you want to control your own platform, your own narrative much more tightly.
Okay, before we wrap up the personal side, let's just quickly touch on his family life. He was married before his current wife, right?
Yeah, he was first married to Linda Dupree, who was a model and stunt woman. They married in 1989, around the time his SNL fame was really taking off, but they divorced in 2002.
And then he married actress Susan Yeagley.
That's right. They got married in a pretty spectacular setting, Bellagio, over in Lombardy, Italy, on September 3rd, 2005.
Nice. And they have a son together.
Yes. They have one son, Gable, who was born in 2007, and the family lives out in Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles.
Got it. Any other sort of surprising personal details?
Well, two quick ones that kind of underscore his diverse background. He actually holds dual citizenship, Irish and American citizenship, reflecting that Irish heritage we mentioned.
Oh, interesting. Dual citizen.
And here's a fun historical footnote. Apparently, he's distantly related to the famous 19th century American statesman Daniel Webster.
Daniel Webster. No kidding.
Bit of trivia there.
And finally, it seems like he's also pretty loyal to his friends. Uses his fame for good causes.
Definitely. There was an instance in 2019 where he organized a whole benefit festival, used his name and connections to raise money for a close friend, a musician named Tony Mills.
Tony Mills, from the European rock scene.
Yeah, melodic rock scene. Mills was seriously ill, and Nealon directed all the proceeds from the festival towards his medical bills. Just a really solid thing to do for a friend.
Nice. And one last thing back to his college days. You mentioned football, but he also played rugby.
He did, played rugby for the Fairfield Yankees, RFC. So he had that athletic side going on too, connecting back to those early university days, hashtag OUTRO, synthesis and final thought. So when you tie all these different threads together, you know, the marketing degree way back when, the intense pressure and eventual scandal of the wiretapping, right up to the innovation of hiking with Kevin, what you really see is a career that's just fundamentally built on strategic evolution, constant adaptation. Nealon never let himself get stuck. He never got confined to just one box or one decade. He moved from that super rapid-fire, tightly scripted sketch world of SNL, where he got Emmy nods for writing,
right,
to the much more cynical, long-form character work he did on Weeds, where he was getting recognized by the Screen Actors Guild alongside that amazing cast.
So that enduring relevance, the thing we set out to kind of unpack,
Yeah.
it really seems to rest on three main pillars, doesn't it?
I think that's fair. What would you say they are?
Well, first, obviously, that deep foundation he built at SNL. 9 seasons gave him incredible credibility, name recognition, and honed those character skills.
Pillar 1, the SNL Foundation. Agreed.
Pillar 2, the sheer consistency and reliability of his supporting actor work afterwards. He proved he was commercially viable, whether it was in the broad comedy of the Happy Madison movies or the more complex stuff like Weeds or even Larry Sanders, just always solid.
Pillar 2, reliable versatility in acting.
Makes sense.
And then pillar 3, which feels maybe the most defining now, is that late career innovation.
Yes, the digital leap. He saw the media landscape shifting, and unlike a lot of his peers, maybe, who resisted those digital platforms or didn't know how to engage with them, he just jumped right in.
He embraced it completely.
Took something simple and authentic that he loved hiking, combined it with his interview skills, and built his own viable, self-produced platform from the ground up. And now, that platform itself is being recognized and acquired by major media players like Fox Nation.
It really is the ultimate validation, isn't it, of that strategic thinking, that adaptability playing out over decades in this ridiculously chaotic entertainment world.
So what's the takeaway here for you, the listener? For anyone trying to figure out how to build something lasting in their own field, feels like it's about that blend.
Yeah.
Being adaptable, being willing to evolve, but doing it in a way that stays fundamentally authentic to who you are.
Right. Nealon's willingness to just grab a drone and edit his own videos wasn't just about saving money. It ensured his continued relevance both economically and culturally because it gave him total control over his output.
And that idea of control. That leads us right into our final thought, our provocation for you to mull over after this.
Okay.
We talked about that really alarming fact that Nealon was apparently targeted for illegal surveillance, not just by Pelicano, the Hollywood PI, but maybe even by corporate investigators linked to Ringling Bros, seemingly just because of his PETA activism.
Yeah, that was disturbing.
So given that history, that intense, unauthorized scrutiny, that invasion of his privacy, the actual tapping of his phone line, what does his later, very deliberate shift towards creating and controlling his own highly personal digital content, like hiking with Kevin. What does that suggest? Is his decision to personally manage his own camera, his own editing, his own distribution, is that just a smart, modern comedic choice? Or is it also maybe a kind of defensive necessity, a way to survive in this post-Pelicano always online world where controlling your own narrative, protecting your own space is absolutely paramount for a public figure?
Is it artistic freedom, or is it digital self-defense? Or maybe both? That's a really compelling question to think about. Where does one end and the other begin for someone like him?
Something to chew on. It definitely adds another layer to his story.
It certainly does.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the enduring evolution of Kevin Nealon.
Been fascinating.
Catch you next time on The Deep Dive.